4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 19th. It's also my mother's birthday, if anybody would like to wish her a happy birthday. This is the Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee, and we're going to start with making sure that we have a quorum, and then we will call on Council Lady Stiles to make our typical motion. So, Benedict? Okay, not hearing her. Bradford? Saw you, Russ, already. Cash? Evans? Gamble? I think we've already talked to her. Got this here.
I'm here.
Oh, Emily, is that you? Oh, Emily is at the courthouse with my candy jar. All right, Hager? Larry, are you there? Okay. Hall? I am here. Freddie O'Connell? I see your name. John Parker is here. John Rutherford is here.
Here.
Joyce Stiles is here.
Present.
Lady Toombs.
Here. Present.
Council Lady Van Reese.
I'm here.
Jenny Welch, did you get back on?
She was just here. I saw her.
I see your name. Go with her. And then Brett Withers. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make the motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metro Council. And that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennessee in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Council ladies.
I second it. Seconded. Did you hear me?
Thank you. With that, does anybody wish to vote against the motion? Please raise your hand or speak now. Seeing none and hearing none, that motion is approved. So we're going to move on to resolutions. And we're just going to do the consent agenda all together, even though they're separate, instead of breaking them down. That way we can just follow along. So item number 1 is resolution RS 2020-255 by Council Lady Vercher, requests various Metro government departments and agencies to provide a comprehensive assessment of the capacity to deliver public services to the Antioch area. So we've already indefinitely deferred that, and I have it on consent for indefinite deferral. Item number 2, resolution RS 2020-259 by Murphy, recognizes the Nashville Repertory Theater's 35th anniversary season. Item number 3, BL 2020-127 by Councilman Hall, who has he joined us? Councilman Hall, are you there? Okay, that one is going to be pulled from consent until he arrives. Moving to item number 5, BL 2020-227, Withers, Mendez, and others, authorizes permanent and temporary construction easements to Piedmont Natural Gas Company on property owned by the Metro government. Item number 6, BL 2020-230 by Parker, Murphy, and others, abandons a portion of alley number 312 right-of-way from North 9th Street to alley number 278. Item number 8 on your agenda is substitute BL 2019-78, amends the Metro Code to impose a minimum distance requirements for new short-term rental properties not owner-occupied from churches, schools, daycares, and parks. That's on consent to defer to June 2nd. Item number 9. Sorry, the pages are messed up. BL 2020-194 by Roberts, amends 4.33 acres in the 49th and Tennessee specific plan for properties located at 1200 49th Avenue North to add 6 multifamily residential units for a total of 61 multifamily residential units. It's on consent to approve. Now, item number 10, BL 2020-209 by Council Lady Toombs, changes 5.16 acres from CL and OR 20 to MUGA zoning for properties located at 321, 325, and 329 West Trinity Lane, and a portion of the West Trinity Lane unnumbered at the northeast corner of Monticello Drive and West Trinity Lane. It's on consent for approval. Item number 11, BL 2020-214 by Council Lady Roberts, changes 0.81 acres from R40 to R6 zoning for property located at 1201 Watts Terrace. That's on consent to be approved. Item number 12, BL 2020-217. Is Council Lady Lee with us? Okay, I'm going to pull that from consent. Item number 13, BL 2020-255 by Council Lady Stiles, amends 332. I'm sorry, that's not on consent. It has a substitute. Item number 14, BL 2020-258 as substituted by Council Lady Van Reese. It changes 3.54 acres from RS10 to SP zoning for property located at 218 Maplewood Trace to permit 48 multifamily residential units. That's on consent to be approved. Item number 15, BL 2020-259. Councilman Hager, are you abstaining on item number 15? BL 2020-259 that Councilman Glover's carrying? You could shake your head if I can't hear. I can see you. I can't hear you. Okay. I think he is abstaining on that one, but it's on consent to approve. Changes 6.94 acres from R10 to MULA zoning for property located at 304 Old Lebanon Dirt Road. Item number 16, BL 2020-267 by Council Lady Van Reese. Changes 6.74 acres from RS20 to RM2 zoning for the property located at 1101 Chadwell Drive and Chadwell Drive unnumbered, approximately 520 feet west of South Raycroft Avenue. Item number 17, BL 2020-270 by Council Lady Van Reese. It changes 7.7 acres from OG and RS20 to RM9 zoning for a portion of property located at 1022 South Graycroft Avenue. That's consent to approve. So I'll run through those one more time for our consent calendar. Item number 1, RS 2020-255. It is on consent for indefinite deferral. Item number 2, RS 2020-259, on consent to be approved. Item number 5, EL 2020-227, on consent to be approved. Item number 6, BL 2020-230, on consent to be approved. Item number 8, substitute bill BL 2019-78 is on consent to defer to June 2nd. Item number 9, BL 2020-194 by Councilor Roberts is on consent to be approved. BL 2020-209 on consent to be approved. Item number 11, BL 2020-214 on consent to be approved. Item number 13 is not, so item number 14, substitute bill BL 2020-258 is on consent to be approved. BL 2020-259 with Councilman Hager abstaining is on consent to be approved. Item number 16, BL 2020-267 on consent to be approved. Item number 17, BL 2020-270 is on consent to be approved. Council Lady Stiles. Do we have made the consent calendar and a motion? Council Lady Stiles, would you like to second?
Sorry, coming off mute. I second.
Great. With that, motion and seconded, if anyone would like to vote against that or pull anything off of the consent, please raise your hand or speak now. Larry, I see your hand.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear
Okay,
you.
I just want to make sure you got my extension on 259.
I sure did. Okay, with that, we will consider that no one is voting against this and all that are voting in favor. The consent agenda passes. So moving to item number 3 on your agenda, BL 2020-127. It's Councilman Hall here. Here you are, Councilman Hall. Would you like to make a motion on your bill?
Yes, I'd like to move for approval, please.
So I'm sorry, I should have read the first part of it first. BL 2020-127 changes 53.22 acres from SP and R40 to MUA zoning for properties located at 6404 Edens Creek Road, 3508, 3612, 3616, and 3622 Old Clarksville Pike, Edens Creek Road unnumbered, and Old Clarksville Pike unnumbered, approximately 215 feet west of Jolton Community Center Road. Okay, Councilman, you've made a motion on that.
Can you hear me? Yes, I'd like to make a motion for approval, but with a really quick statement.
You need to get a second first.
Second.
Second.
That motion has been seconded. Go ahead, Councilman Hall.
Okay, so I've got several items that we're still struggling to have some additional conversations about because of this COVID situation. But what we've done is, we took some great advice from planning and planning commission on how to approach some of those things. And so we're getting that information out as best we can. I've got limited internet access in huge sections of my district, so everybody's not able to jump on these public meetings. But we're going to make a point to get this information to folks, and we're not going to move forward on anything at final reading until we've gotten everything resolved. Otherwise, I'll just pull the stuff and start from scratch.
Councilman, this has not been heard. It's only been referred to the Planning Commission. So would you rather just defer this to June 2nd so we can have the public hearing?
I absolutely would love to do that.
Okay. So do you mind withdrawing your motion?
No, let me withdraw that motion for approval and move to defer until the June 2nd meeting.
Okay.
Wait, is that the 2nd or the 9th?
It is the, I believe it was the 2nd.
It's just, yeah.
The public hearing is the 9th, right?
Hannah, will you
Right.
tell me what's the correct date?
The zoning public hearing is June 9th.
Okay.
Right.
But I
Okay.
would
Yeah,
say,
the 2nd is just budget.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there are some other related bills that were related to this item that were deferred until July. I believe it's the meeting. So I just wanted to make a note of that. I guess you don't have to defer it to track with those bills, but if you'd like to go ahead and get this one back on track with the other 4, you could defer this to the July 7th public hearing.
Okay, Councilman Hall, would you like to defer this to June 9th or July 7th to track with your other legislation?
Let's make sure they're all tracking together. So let's go with July 7th.
Okay. You're lucky I have an erasable pen tonight. All right, July 7th.
Yeah.
So the motion before us, I will second Councilman Hall's motion to defer this until July 7th to track with his other legislation. So that's a motion and a second properly before us. If anybody would like to vote against this, Hannah, please put your hand down unless you need me. Please raise your hand or speak now if you'd like to vote against the motion. All right, hearing none and seeing none, that is deferred until July 7th. So we are on item number 4 on your agenda, BL 2020-224 by Taylor and others, amends the Metro Code to require landlords to provide notice to tenants prior to a sale of the property. Is Councilman Hall here? I'm sorry, not Councilman Hall, Councilman Taylor.
Here.
Okay, I'm sorry, let me back up. First, let's get a motion and a second on your bill.
Yeah, I'd like to move this bill.
You are not on the committee. I need a committee.
Second.
I'll move the bill.
I'm so moved.
All right, we've got movement and we have a second. So, Councilman Taylor, would you like to explain your bill to us?
Yes, just very briefly, this is an opportunity for us to protect tenants in Nashville. Briefly during the, just to have you guys very briefly, during the tornado, I introduced this bill, had a few tenants throughout the city that had some of their properties that were sold during this time, and they're not going to be able to move back in, as well as moving forward. There's other items that we can discuss, but I want to give some opportunity to protect the tenants and their rights for this bill.
Is there any questions or discussion? Please raise your hand. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've having worked with Councilmember Taylor through a lot of the tornado efforts. I fully appreciate the intent of the bill. I am a little worried that it's incredibly broad. I wonder if we might be better off referring this to get some more input. So for instance, we did some mapping years ago in Salem Town and discovered that where we had almost 50%. And I'm getting a lot of background noise. Is there anybody out there that
Councilman Stiles, if you could mute yourself. Thank you. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, so we've got, for instance, a lot of single family homes that might be on long-term leases right now, but there is still enough activity in the market where people might want to move into a long-term home ownership model. I do agree a little bit about the terms of this. And I can't remember, did I see an amendment on this as well? That I think I heard of an amendment going around that might impact commercial property. I think this bill might need a little more time to be discussed in terms of its potential impacts. And I wonder if the sponsor would consider deferring it so that we could possibly entertain some additional amendments after some discussion in this committee.
Councilman Taylor, I'll go back to you for comments on that motion to ask for a deferral. Did we lose you, Councilman Taylor?
We can't hear you.
Is anyone hearing Councilman Taylor? I am not.
Looks like he's having difficulty.
Why don't we, I'd like to make a motion for a meeting deferral.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I'll second that as well. Okay, so we're going to defer that one meeting. Okay, so how we're going to do this is if everyone will take their hands down, and we are voting on the motion to defer this one meeting. So please raise your hand or vocally say if you'd like to vote against this meeting to defer one meeting. Councilman Hager, are you voting or are you Or do you still have your hand raised from previous discussions? Okay, so
I'm sorry, could you clarify again, to raise your hand if you are against or in favor of the deferral? There was some
if you're in
confusion.
favor of the deferral, and what I'm going to do is I think we're going to have to roll call because I think people have their hands up from previous discussion as well. So we're going to roll call this. So you know your alphabet, so you're ready. This is so vote yes if you are in favor of deferral, vote no if you are against the deferral of one meeting for further discussion. Benedict.
I'm against.
Bradford.
Against deferral.
Hash.
I am for deferral. So
Evans. Gamble.
I'm against deferral. I'd really like to hear from the sponsor. I know we couldn't hear him, but I would like to hear him, and I don't know if we can go back now. The motion has been made, but
Right now we're voting on the motion before us.
okay. So
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How would you like to vote, Councilman?
I'm for deferral. We need to discuss this more.
Thank you. Councilman
Please.
Hall.
Yes, deferral.
Chair votes for deferral. Councilman Connell, I assume you're in favor of your motion. Councilman Parker.
I am against deferral. Can you let me know if you heard that?
Gotcha, Councilman Parker. Councilman Rutherford. Councilman Rutherford, once. All right, Council Lady Stiles.
Against.
Council Lady Toombs.
Against.
Council Lady Van Reese.
I'm for deferral.
Council Lady Welch.
Against.
Councilman Withers.
I'm for deferral.
Seven, eight. That's 6 for deferral, 8 against it. So that motion fails. So we are still on the bill. Has Councilman Taylor been able to join us again? Would someone else like to make a motion?
I move that we pass the bill. Move for approval.
It's for
A second that.
second.
approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Parker, you have your hand raised. Did you want to speak?
So I was muted. I'm sorry. No, I don't need to speak if we have a motion to approve.
So what we're going to do here is we will roll call.
Can we have some discussion on the motion?
Sure. Go ahead.
I don't know if others are also have their hands raised for discussion, but I will say again, the reason for my motion to defer 1 minute is that I think this has incredibly sweeping impact despite originating from a scenario that happened during the tornado. I wonder if, again, the sponsor will consider a process of entertaining amendments, but if this is citywide. It's not bound in time to the tornado, et cetera. I think just based on people that I know exist in the team, I know the effort here is to protect tenants, but I actually worry has much bigger impact on the overall process of real estate transactions than we've had the opportunity to discuss. And I can't support it without an opportunity to have some greater discussion on it and possibly have an opportunity to amend. So if we go forward tonight, I can't vote for this.
And I will say, so there are amendments proposed by Councilman Taylor and Council Lady Hauser. And so I am concerned that Councilman Taylor, if we have lost him and we don't have an opportunity to discuss his amendment, I am worried about moving forward on this without a better discussion, without these technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this bill to the heel of our calendar and hope that Councilman Taylor can rejoin us so we can have proper discussion about the amendment that he has proposed. So BL 2020-224 is rolled to the heel in the hopes that he can rejoin us, and we'll deal with that legislation at the end of our calendar. So moving back to Councilman O'Connell's bill, item 7 on your agenda, BL 2020-232. Okay, so Councilman O'Connell, this abandons a portion of alley number 146 right away from Lafayette Street to Elm Street. You had deferred this last meeting back before us. Would you like to make a motion on your bill?
Yeah, I'd like to defer to the first meeting in July. I'm still waiting on some information from Music City Center.
Okay, that is a proper motion. I will second it. What we're going to do is anyone, Parker, do you have discussion on this one? Your hand is raised.
No, I don't. I'll lower my hand.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is you're going to raise your hand if you're against the motion for approval, or speak that you are against it.
It's a motion for deferral, I think.
You're right. I'm sorry, Jenny. The motion to defer this to the first meeting in July. I feel like I'm trying to rub my tummy and pat my head at the same time. I see no raised hands against this. I'm hearing no objections. Councilman, your legislation BL 2020-232 is deferred to the first meeting in July. Okay, I thought we had one more. Has Council Lady Lee joined us?
Yes, I have. She's here.
Wonderful. We have your bill, BL 2020-217, changes 5.66 acres from RS10 to RM6 zoning for an unnumbered property located on Hobson Pike.
I move approval.
Council Lady Lee, you're actually not on my committee, so I will move for approval. If someone,
My bad. I'm so sorry.
Second.
that's okay. Great. We have a motion and a second for approval on BL 2020-217. And again, we'll do our favorite, raise our hand or speak if you are against the motion for approval. Hearing none and seeing none, Councilor, your bill is approved. Moving on to item number 13 on your agenda, BL 2020-255 by Council Lady Stiles. It amends 332.24 acres of the specific plan for properties located at 3141 Old Franklin Road, 4001 Cane Ridge Parkway, 4100 William Turner Parkway, and the Cane Ridge Road unnumbered, located at the north side of Old Franklin Road, to amend signage and development standards, revise sub-district boundaries, and to add 2.92 acres. Council Lady Stiles, would you like to move proposed substitute?
Yes, please, Chair. I would like to move my substitute.
I will second the substitute we're just on the proposed substitute. It has not been substituted yet. So we have to get the substitute.
Can I give a brief comment?
That is the motion. So please raise your hand or speak if you are against putting the substitute on the bill? Seeing none, hearing none, the substitute is, the bill is substituted. Council-Lady Styles, would you like to make a motion on your substituted bill?
Yes, I would like to move for approval on the substitute with a brief comment.
I will second your amendment and go ahead with your brief explanation.
So the substitute, the only change that it does is it adds that the developers will be giving 2 acres of common space that will be continuous, will not be broken up in any way.
Wonderful. That sounds like a good substitute. So we have it motioned and we have it seconded properly in front of us on this bill as substituted. If you are against the bill as substituted moving forward for approval, please raise your hand or speak now. See none, and Tom Cash, your hand popped up. Councilman Cash?
Sorry, I thought we were voting.
Yes, we are voting. Are you against moving the legislation forward?
I'm for moving legislation forward.
Okay. So that Council-Lady Styles, your bill as substituted is approved.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Let me see where we are. We are back. That brings us to the end of the calendar and back to Councilman Taylor's legislation. Councilman Taylor been able to rejoin us? Councilman Parker, do you have a comment?
Councilman Murphy, this is Ken, the host. I had a couple of call-in users that I think may have been Councilman Taylor, so I unmuted the line. So if he's called in on his phone, he can talk now if he can hear me.
Hello, yes, this is Councilman Taylor. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful. So you have there is an amendment proposed for this bill. Councilman Taylor, would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good, finally. Look at that. I'm not a technological millennial there, guys. Yes, so I want to go back. So I have had conversations with both the Greater Nashville Realtors and the Greater Nashville Apartment Association. With this, there are 2 amendments. One amendment will be to remove any commercial leases, so it's only residential leases and residential tenants. And then the second amendment would be, it's presented by Councilmember Hauser, and I'm not opposed to that amendment at all. That would be a 90-day written notice. Currently, right now, the way that it reads is a 90-day notice prior to closing, and Councilmember Hauser has an amendment for 90 days written notice for intent to sell, so that it's not prior to closing. And then also, there's a 5-day period during closing when the purchase agreement is finalized, that then you have to send a notice that the property will be sold.
So the 5-day notice, is that in your amendment or is that in Council-Lady Hauser's amendment?
That's in Councilmember Hauser's amendment.
Okay. What's Councilman Parker? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure to have an opportunity to speak on this. Generally, I'm not speaking on either amendment at the moment. So, I've gotten a lot of emails and heard discussion in this committee of, there are unintended consequences, and we'd like more opportunity to discuss this. I'm for the bill in its current form. Amendment 1 seems fine to me. Amendment 2, I would like to understand a little bit better. One question I have is this amendable on third, or is this our only shot to amend it? And then I would ask that committee members, if we could articulate, because as you all know, we cannot discuss this legislation outside of publicly noticed meetings. So if we have particular concerns about this bill, if we could articulate them here in committee before moving on and deferring, I would really appreciate it, because that would give me some time to sort of talk with stakeholders and address it. And that's all I've got for the moment. Thank you, Chair.
So we're going to go to if Hannah Zeitlin is still on with us. Hannah, can you tell us if this is amendable on third?
This would not be amendable on third. This is only amendable on second reading.
Thank you, Hannah. Sean, if you're done, if you'll put your hand down. And next I saw Council Lady Gamble, I believe, but now I'm not.
Yes, I had my hand up and Sean kind of asked the questions that I had. I did have another question, though. I didn't hear very well the last part of Councilman Taylor's explanation of the Second Amendment. It was 5 days. If you could repeat that, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Yes, the amendment from Gloria Hauser, Councilmember Hauser, is to send a notice. So we'll send a notice, 90-day written notice prior to selling, which is the intent to sell. Currently, at the moment, the bill, the language in the bill is that you have to have a 90-day notice, written notice to the tenant, 90 days prior to closing. So that changes that language just a bit there, and it's not prior to closing, then it will be 90-day written notice with intent to sell. And then the last piece of the amendment is 5 days from closing. So 5 days from closing, you have to send or 5 days when the closing is set, you have to send a secondary written notice to the tenant confirming the sale of the property.
So 5 days, 5 days from the closing date?
From the date scheduled. So when the date is scheduled, 5 days from the date is scheduled. So that could give or take 20 to 30 days.
So Councilman Taylor, let me understand this. So Councilman Hauser, Council Lady Hauser's amendment is a written notice, 90-day written notice to sell. So before it's listed, or 90 days written notice that you're closing?
For an intent to sell before it's listed.
Okay. I will say that I have concerns about when you're deciding to sell a property, I can't imagine that it's very fair that I have to, if I decide to sell, I then would have to wait 90 days before I could list it. And I would be interested to hear some more reasoning behind that from the sponsor. So we're going to go to Council Lady Stiles. You have your hand raised?
I do, but I was going to wait until we were finished with this conversation. It actually is about the vote on my bill. So I'll wait.
Okay. All right. We will go to Council Lady Van Rees.
Thank you. This is one of a couple of things that are happening this week that I'm feeling a little bit lack of bandwidth to completely understand. And if I'm not even, a slight point of order, I think we've already deferred this. And so I wanted to kind of understand what happened there. But also, I know that the Hauser Amendment just arrived, and I can't see that there's been enough bandwidth for us to understand it and to get appropriate feedback. The intent is obviously a good one, but I'm wanting more time to understand this. And I just wanted to clarify whether or not we've already deferred this or not.
Sure, Council
Point
Lady.
of order, I think the deferral motion failed.
The motion to defer failed 6-8. And then we were waiting, Councilman Taylor dropped off. And so we could not have more discussion. So I moved it to the heel in the hopes that he would be able to rejoin us.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But
Thank you for that.
Still is,
Madam Chair.
Is that you,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So this amendment with Councilmember Hauser was before us when I deferred it 2 meetings ago. So this amendment has been there for at least 2 weeks now. since the last meeting,
I
since
would
2
say that
meetings
I
ago. Excuse
still
me.
am confused about the bill and the extension here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Lady Van Reese.
Have all the parties been able to receive the amendment and give feedback? Council Member Taylor, the associations and the other, have they've been able to give feedback to all the amendments? Because it was just this week we got confirmation from them that they were still wanting to work on it. And so I'm not sure whether or not that has happened or not happened. So I would just request for you to defer this so that all the cobwebs can get worked out.
Councilman Taylor, would you like to respond to Council Lady Van Reese?
Yes, thank you. So yes, I've worked with the associations, again, met with the Greater Realtor Association and the Greater Apartment Association, and working with the Greater Realtor Association. One of the concerns was the language that would be prior to closing to wait 90 days. That was one of the pieces that they weren't happy about. And speaking with the Greater Apartment Association, also NAIOP was a part of this conversation, and one of the areas that they wanted to see some changes for NAIOP was with their commercial tenants.
Council Lady Van Reese, do you have any more questions?
A lot, and I think that's the reason for my request for deferral. I just don't feel like that I've been able to comprehend everything that this does on a countywide level. And if it ends up being voted on, I'll have to abstain.
Council Lady Van Reese, is that a motion you're making?
I would just would like to request that this be deferred until the second meeting in June.
Is that a request or is that a motion?
Well, I will move that if I can get a second.
Okay, I will second that. So we have a motion and a second before us.
Point of order. Can we
Motion,
do
Council,
Point of order.
on the motion.
Someone is trying to speak, and I'm not sure who it was. It was
Councilman O'Connell, you have the floor.
Yeah, point of order. Can we do a second deferral motion after one has failed?
Yes.
Did we, I feel like, point of order, I feel like we moved and seconded to move the bill, and then we couldn't get through to Councilman Taylor, and so we put it at the heel. Was that motion not made to move the bill?
The only motion that we voted on was the motion to deferral.
I know we didn't vote on it, but I thought somebody moved after we voted on the deferral motion. I thought somebody moved the bill itself.
Moved the
But
bill.
I could be wrong.
At it. I'm sorry. I could be. My memory could be wrong that we had that motion on the floor at this point. I guess if I are on the line and can clarify or remember where we are, if we have a prior motion that we need to vote on.
This is Hannah Zeitlin. Are you asking me? Sorry, it cut out.
Yes. If y'all were recording or if anybody could help us out.
Procedurally, where we are? Is that the question? Procedurally, where are we? I believe that there's been a motion to approve the bill. However, you could still do a motion for an amendment if you'd like. I don't think there's been any motion on any amendment, even though some of the amendments may have been discussed. So I guess procedurally where we are, we're on a motion to approve. If you'd like to approve an amendment, do that first, and then make a motion to approve the bill as amended, if any.
So, well, what it sounds like what we have before us is nobody has made a motion on any of the amendments or on either of these amendments.
I will make a motion.
Defer.
I'd like to make a motion for the amendment. Can we do
have
that?
a motion and a second on the deferral. So if you, I guess, Hannah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think where we are is back on the motion to defer. Is that correct?
So there was a motion to defer previously. That motion failed. Then there was a motion to approve.
Okay, so that is.
I don't think that there's been another motion to defer.
I just made the motion to approve for the amendment that Councilmember Hauser put in.
I need you to time out for a second. Hannah, do we need to vote on the prior motion to approve?
No. So procedurally where we are, there has been a motion to approve. That allows a motion for an amendment, and you're going to want to add an amendment before you approve the bill.
Okay. So Council Lady Stiles, are you moving an amendment?
Yes, correct.
Second.
Council Lady Stiles, which amendment are you moving?
Council Member Hauser's.
Okay. So I heard a second on that. So Council Lady Hauser's amendment is before us, properly seconded. And so what we're going to have to do is either everyone needs to put their hands down, or I can roll call this. So if you want to put your hands down and we'll vote, roll call.
Point of order. Do we need to vote on the First Amendment?
That
doesn't matter.
Has not been moved or seconded, so it is not.
Okay.
It's not before us to vote on yet.
Oh.
So we are voting on the Hauser amendment. If you are against the Hauser amendment, raise your hand on the screen. Sean Parker, is your hand raised to vote? I think I'm going to have to roll call this. I think that's going to be the easier way to do that. Councilman Parker, is your hand raised for a comment?
My hand was raised to vote against the amendment.
Vote against it. Okay.
Councilmember Murphy, if you could do roll call, because I intend to abstain.
Okay, I'll roll call it. Okay, so again, this is on Council Lady Hauser's amendment to BL 202224.
I'm for it.
Bradford.
4.
Cash.
4.
Evans. Gamble.
4.
Hager. Hager. Hall.
4.
O'Connell. Councilman O'Connell?
For it.
Can you confirm what your vote was, Councilman O'Connell?
I am for the amendment.
Parker.
I'm against the amendment.
Rutherford.
4.
Stiles.
4.
Toombs.
4.
Van Reese is abstaining. Welch.
Against.
Withers.
4.
So that vote is 11 in favor, 2 against, 1 abstention. So the bill has been amended with Council Lady Hauser's amendment. So we will go back to Councilman Parker. You have your hand raised for discussion.
I'd like to move Amendment 1, Councilmember Taylor's amendment.
Okay, that's proper. That's a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Discussion on Councilman Taylor's amendment. Let's see. Council Lady Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to figure out where we are. So we have, with Councilwoman Hauser's amendment, we just passed it. Now we're on a second amendment.
Yes, we're on Councilman Taylor's amendment.
Okay, and so help me from a point of order perspective. So we passed one amendment, now we're looking to amend a second time, is that right?
Yes. So
Okay.
Second, it's a different amendment for the bill.
Understood, thank you.
Hannah?
One thing to maybe clarify, there are language changes between these two amendments. And so I think that just maybe it would be good to clarify. So apologies, I'm pulling up the amendments right now. So Councilman Taylor's amendment, the one that you guys are currently on, adds the word residential to clarify that this is for residential properties. Now, the language does not incorporate Hauser's amendment. So in order to avoid a conflict, I guess there's two options. One, this committee can say that they're recommending either amendment, that they like both of them, or you could say basically that this amendment one is going to add the word residential to Hauser's amendment, if that makes sense.
So Hannah, I think what I'm hearing you say is so the two amendments before us are somewhat in conflict on their language. So, but if you put on Councilman Taylor's amendment at this point, it would still be a conflict? Would it need to be fixed on third?
So I guess my question would be, as long as the committee understands the intent of what they're doing. So if the intent is to basically amend Hauser's amendment to add the word residential, that's proper, but I think that you might want to go on record and say that. Or you're saying that the committee approves of both Council Lady Hauser's amendment and Councilman Taylor's amendment. Does that make sense?
My concern, though, is if we move them both forward, then they're both on the bill and they're in conflict, and that it needs to be rolled into either one amendment or substituted, and that cannot be done on third. Is that?
So you could basically have this amendment be amending Hauser's amendment, if that makes sense. I apologize for using amendment so many times, but that's kind of
okay. So what we need to do here is have the intention that the Taylor amendment is to amend the Hauser amendment that is already on the bill.
Correct. That you are adding basically the new language where it says landlords, which the language is in both amendments in the same place. So landlords, this in Councilman Taylor's bill or amendment would add of property used for residential purposes. And then would also clarify in front of the word tenants that it's residential tenants.
Okay. So hearing this explanation, that we are on the, is there discussion on the Taylor amendment going on to the Hauser amendment? Councilman Weathers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I understand it, I'm with, I think, Councilmember O'Connell and some, perhaps yourself, and I personally think this bill needs a little bit more work. It has great intentions, but needs more work. I do believe that the Taylor amendment, which specifies that we're talking about residential, is good because that gets us out of the conversation with commercial. So I think that's good. I believe that works well if you're going to do that with Councilmember Hauser's amendment or the notice of the potential closing. So even though I have some hesitation about whether this bill is fully baked yet or not, I believe that both amendments are beneficial and are things that I generally support, even though I think it needs a little bit more work. But I'm comfortable with adding both amendments and believe that Councilmember Hauser's and Taylor's do work well together to specify that we're addressing residential and also to specify that a written notice be needed before closing. So I'm comfortable moving both bills.
You mean both amendments?
Both amendments, yes, ma'am.
So I echo that I would be more comfortable if this was clean in one amendment before us, so we did not have so much confusion. I still echo, I think where I was before, that I would like some more discussion and some more input from the stakeholders on this. Councilman Withers, will you put your hand down? And do we have anyone else who'd like to speak on this? Councilman O'Connell.
Speak on the bill as amended right now.
Has not been amended yet.
Bill.
That we are on. You can speak on the Taylor amendment to motion to amend. Let me start over. We are on the motion to amend the Hauser amendment with the Taylor amendment.
I don't need to speak on that. Thank you.
Councilman Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that both of the amendments work well with the bill, and I'm supportive of the amendments. But I don't think that the current amendment or the previous one do enough to fully bake the bill, if you will. And I think it overall additional work, and would prefer that it be deferred.
Okay. Is that a motion, Councilman Rutherford?
No, it is not a motion because we are on the motion to.
Okay. So if you'll, Councilman Rutherford, if you'll take your hand down, and I see no more hands, we're going to roll call the vote.
Chair?
Yes, who is that?
Sorry, it's Councilwoman Benedict. Gotcha. I raised my hand. You might not have seen it. So I think that as a committee, we have the opportunity, well, not I think, as a committee, we have the opportunity to vote this up or down. And if a deferral is something that the council as a body wants to recommend, then I think we have as a body, the opportunity to do that on the floor. But I think with this committee, as we've already voted down a deferral. So I'd like to just clarify that if we were to talk about, well, obviously we're not on the deferral.
We're on the motion to amend the Hauser amendment with the Taylor amendment.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do you have comments on that?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. So if you put your hand down, what I'm going to do is roll call this. So this is, if you are voting yes, you are voting in favor of the Taylor amendment to the Hauser amendment. If you vote no, you are not putting the Taylor amendment on the Hauser amendment. So I think that gets us. All right, you know where you are alphabetically. Let's try to roll call. Benedict.
I approve the amendment.
Bradford.
Yes.
Hash.
4, yes.
Evans. Gamble.
4.
Hager. Hall.
4.
O'Connell.
For the amendment.
Parker.
I'm for the amendment.
Rutherford.
For the amendment.
Stiles.
4.
Toombs.
4.
Van Rees.
For this amendment as discussed.
Welch.
4.
Withers.
4.
Hell, y'all, like we could have just done this like we normally do. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in favor. Okay, so now we have the Taylor bill amended by Hauser, which has been amended by Taylor. So, is there discussion on the bill as amended by the Hauser and Taylor amendments. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, even though I'm not on the committee. This, I think, came through the Affordable Housing Committee, and absolutely support the intention of protecting tenants. In asking some questions because of the many emails that we've gotten from the people who this will affect on the ownership. And I'm still not clear that this adds additional value over the bill that we passed earlier this year that requires 90 days notice before a rental increase. And so I would just echo the other requests for additional time to make sure that we fully understand what this does and doesn't do, so that we can be sure that it's a protective bill and not one that has unintended consequences that will cause more harm than good. Thank you for letting me speak.
Sure. Thank you, Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Allen, this actually did not go through affordable housing. So that may be a motion or a request on the floor tonight, is that it go through affordable housing. Council Lady Allen, do you have another follow-up?
No, I appreciate that suggestion.
Sure. Okay. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know Councilmember Parker put in a request for some explanation of concerns. I'm happy to share a very specific case study. So, for instance, a neighbor of mine moved to a new city after getting a great job opportunity, and she and her husband were hoping to hang on to their house in Salem Town as a rental property, basically. So they own their house, right? They are renting it, and it's a residential property. They are not, in any way in the big commercial landlord type of industry. They're just a husband and wife who own a house they might hope to come back to. If they wind up having to stay out of area for longer than they anticipate and their move becomes permanent instead of temporary, and they have an existing tenant, but they need to sell the property for external circumstances, I've spoken to them and people in realty who also recognize this, right? The issue is so often, especially in a market like Nashville before COVID-19, you wind up with properties not even hitting listing. Sometimes being like a property will change hands before even being publicly listed. And this basically eliminates that as an option. If they needed to sell their property quickly under the terms of this bill, they would not be able to do so, as I understand it, unless I'm misinterpreting it in a way that Hannah can explain. But that is just a single instance of the way in which this could potentially affect real estate transactions. I think we can do better in terms of tenant protection without unintended consequence. I'll give one other quick example. Just based under the existing understanding, I mean, I have certainly signed leases that I gave a quick scan to, but that I didn't have a lawyer review. I think if a tenant received a notice that a landlord were going to potentially sell a property, I think one of the unintended consequences of this bill actually would be that tenants would voluntarily vacate properties unnecessarily, expecting that the sale would actually terminate the lease itself. That is frequently not the case. And I think that's one of those things where I want to think through what are the contents of the notification? Like, is there some way to ensure that as we are trying to protect tenants, we're actually not causing them to see a notice that gets misunderstood or has the effect of actually moving them out of a high quality lease that would continue through a property sale. And those are the kinds of issues that I don't think have been fully discussed here. And I hate to see us pass this bill in haste with good intentions when we could get a better bill that actually offers both meaningful protections for tenants but also protect people that need to operate under the velocity of traditional real estate transactions in a way that does not injure tenants.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connell. Those are my that explains a lot of my concerns and hesitations on this bill as well. I'm very concerned about people who fall on hard times or get offers to move that they need to move somewhere else for a job, and then they have a sick parent who they need to sell that property so they can put a sick parent into a care facility. And this could endanger people's ability to liquidate their assets in a way that they legally can now. We're taking away their rights and delaying their ability to use their own assets and their own financial situation. So I see Council Lady Benedict stand up. Go ahead, you have the floor, Council Lady.
Thank you, Chair. I move to defer this bill as amended one meeting.
Second.
I second it.
Please.
Right. So that is proper. We don't have any other motions on the floor. Congratulations, Council Lady Benedict. We are going to roll call this one. But let me back up. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer?
Madam Chair, this is Councilman Taylor.
Council Lady Stiles, do you have a discussion on the motion to defer?
No, I was about to make the same motion that Councilmember Benedict just made.
Excellent. Council Lady Van Reese, do you have a discussion on the motion to defer?
No, I was going to make the same motion. Thank you.
All righty. We might get this roll call vote going quickly. Councilman Taylor, do you have comment on the motion to defer? Even though you're not on the committee, I'll let you speak as the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you all. This has been great discussion, and if you all will be willing to defer this as amended, let's continue to have discussion so we can make sure we get this right with the intentions to protect tenants and understand that we want to make sure that we protect all of our constituents, but definitely want to protect tenants with this bill. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Council Lady Gambles, do you have a comment on the motion to defer?
Yes, I just want to clarify, is this the defer for one meeting?
We have a letter from
It's the motion to defer for one meeting.
Yes, that is my understanding, is the motion to defer one meeting.
All right, thanks.
And so with the sponsor's blessing and that clarification, let's try to do this our normal way. If you are against the one meeting deferral, please raise your hand or speak now. Okay, hearing none, seeing none. The bill as amended with the Hauser and then the Taylor amendment, and that also so that passes. And this also gives the opportunity for those amendments to potentially be rolled into one with a substitute or other changes as well. So with that, this bill is amended. I mean, I'm sorry. Whew, we've done so many amending. Is deferred one meeting. And I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda, unless somebody has something that I have forgotten. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
So much seconded. Thanks, y'all. We will see each other again in whatever comes up next.